6:03, and I would like to call this meeting to order. And just say again that it is great to see all of you. And I'll take the roll now. Andy?
Present.
Okay, Bruce?
Present.
Stephanie? Carol?
Present.
And we have John Hart, our solicitor, here. Okay, the next item of business would be to read and approve the minutes from the April 17, 2020 meeting. Would anybody like to make a motion to suspend the reading of the minutes and approve them?
I will. I'll motion.
Make the motion, and who will
I'll
second it? Second it, and before we vote, so Carol's making the motion, Andy's seconding it, and Stephanie has a comment about the minutes.
I just wanted to point out that on the minutes, part 6, number 2, employers should really read employees.
Okay,
So it's just a matter of changing the R to the E.
okay. So with that correction, can we vote to approve the minutes? I'd like to vote to approve the minutes. Everybody?
Yes.
Aye.
Stephanie?
Yes.
And yes. Okay, so all approved. Okay. The next item of business is approving invoices. And we have 2 new invoices since the last meeting. But I would like to also approve again the 3 invoices that we approved at the last meeting, because I'm concerned that I muddled the amounts. And since, you know, this is our public forum right now, and our records are not yet maintained at City Hall. So I would like to be very clear in this meeting about what we're approving. So I'm going to read the amounts and dates of the invoices, and all 5 of them are from the Scranton Times-Tribune. And the first one is an invoice of for $101 exactly for a public notice placed on June 11th, 2020 for to announce this meeting being held tonight on June 18th, 2020. The second invoice is for $96.45 for an ad placed on April 16, 2020, announcing a special meeting of the Ethics Board on April 17, 2020, for us to ratify that was the meeting where we ratified the advisory opinion regarding the 2 matters related to COVID-19 and did some other business. So that's the second invoice. The third invoice is for $232.95. That is for a January 29, 2020 ad, public notice soliciting a request for qualifications for our solicitor. There is a 4th invoice for $60.05 for an ad placed on March 5th, 2020, or a public notice announcing our March 12, 2020 Ethics Board meeting. And then the last ad is for a second solicitation, a public notice soliciting request for qualifications, or soliciting qualifications for a solicitor, because there was no response to our first solicitation. This ad was placed February 4th, 2020. And it was for $469.10. So those are the 5 ads that I'd like to approve. 2 for the first time and 3 we're reapproving because I muddled them last time. So can I get a motion to approve payment of those invoices?
I'll make that motion.
Bruce, and second, Carol? Okay. And can we have a vote?
Aye.
Yes.
Aye.
Okay, I'll agree to approve all of those invoices. Okay. The next item on our agenda is the appointment of Stephanie Bressler as our acting secretary. And before we make that motion, I'd just like to tell you what Stephanie and my thinking was with regard to appointing her as acting secretary rather than secretary. And you know, if you have thoughts or comments on this, any of the board members and John, we are open to discussion. But what we really have thought over the last several weeks, where we've really tried to step up our work to get going as a fully functional board, is that we think we need a permanent city employee who could, like someone ideally with like confidential administrative status, who would be able to maintain custody of the board's records at City Hall, possibly provide assistance as a liaison for the board with other city departments and officials, and perhaps most importantly, access the PO box as required by the ethics code, which appears to, I'm not sure if it's explicit, but prohibit board members from accessing the PO box. Now, John may have some further information for us on that. Our thought was that a board member could still take minutes as an assistant to the secretary, but we just really believe that we should have somebody at City Hall similar to the other boards of the city. I mean, all the other city boards, I believe, have somebody who is at City Hall acting in a capacity as secretary and helping to maintain records. So we would like that. And in that vein, Stephanie has already reached out via email earlier this week, I believe, or was it last week, Stephanie? She reached out to the chief of staff, Stephanie Fiscal, to see if we could have someone designated as secretary for our board. So that's our thinking. You know, Stephanie can be appointed this evening if we all agree, or if the majority agrees, for her to be the acting secretary, and then we can pursue an appointment of a permanent secretary. John and members, anybody have thoughts?
Did we get a response from the chief of staff?
No, we didn't, but I think I just contacted her 2 days ago.
Okay. I mean, it makes sense that it should be somebody separate and attached from the board. Basically, like the point of contact for anybody, any citizen that wants to contact, or any department head. If the mayor's office wants to contact us, they don't have to worry about individually reaching out to one of us. It could be a designated individual. I know that we're still at our infancy, and a lot of the times we're looking to Reading to see what they've done.
Yes.
They have a separate person.
Right.
So that makes sense.
Yeah, and I can say, John, that in Reading, it is the deputy city clerk who acts as secretary.
Okay,
So I guess, let me first start off by saying I'm not in disagreement with this at all. I think having somebody devoted to us is important. Does that mean we could look the route of somebody that maybe serves as secretary of a board that exists already, or are we looking for a totally new person?
My thought would be that it does not have to be somebody totally different.
Okay.
But we wanted to reach out to the chief of staff because we don't know, what the workloads of people who are employees of the city who may be serving in a capacity as a secretary for another board would be. So that's why we didn't, we didn't want to just directly ask somebody because, it would probably have to be authorized by at least by the mayor for someone to do that. Possibly.
I mean, no more than the board appointing me, it is within the authority of the ethics board
Sure.
to appoint a secretary.
So we're waiting on that, and in the meantime, we will have Stephanie act as our acting secretary. And if we could, does anybody have anyone else? Andy, Carol, any other?
No, it can be somebody who's already there. Do they have to come to our meetings, or would it be still like Stephanie taking the minutes and giving them?
We were
I'm
thinking
wondering.
for Stephanie to take the minutes, and that would at least alleviate the extra evening hours for somebody to have to attend. And then she could submit the minutes to the secretary, and we could also have other other records sent to the secretary, like our agendas, our minutes, among other things. I'll get to that later. There's the advisory opinions. We should have the advisory opinions publicly available, at City Hall for someone who might have a question.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, I mean, I fully support that. And I think that's the right step to take. I'm happy to make that motion if we want to appoint Stephanie as acting secretary.
thanks, Bruce. Okay. Second,
I'll second that.
Andy. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. And okay, Stephanie, thank you. We really appreciate it, along with all the work you did to help get ready for tonight's meeting.
Thank you.
Okay, so Stephanie is now officially our acting secretary. And what I may do in the meantime, since we don't have a home for our records yet, we have heard different departments say that we should send them to different departments. So I don't know, that's concerning. I don't like having the records here on my laptop and not accessible by the public. But we don't have a home for them yet. That's one of the big concerns. So I'll at least get them to Stephanie so that both of us will have them, and then we will see if somebody at City Hall can maintain them for us. Stephanie, there was there something with regard to the deputy city clerk at Reading? Was there any pushback to that person, like from any of the employees, or?
I don't know the history, but I looked through a number of years of minutes and I didn't find the appointment there. So I think she's been the secretary for a long time.
Oh, great. Okay, good. That would be great. And if it's somebody with confidential status, that would be optimal. So, okay, next item on the agenda is the appointment of the controller's appointee, who is Carol, as the fiscal officer. And I didn't name Carol in the agenda because she pointed out that she's only here for the rest of this, you know, for a 1-year term. But I think it would be good to designate whoever is appointed by the controller as a fiscal officer. And what basically that would entail is tracking our expenditures so that we can report to the public periodically, you know, whether it's quarterly or twice annually, something like that. I think it's good to you know, stay accountable. So I'd like to make a motion to appoint the controller's appointee as fiscal officer. This person will interact directly with the controller, who will help us track our spending in comparison to our budget.
I'll second that.
Okay, who made the initial? I think you made the initial, Stephanie. Would anybody like to make the second it? Andy. Okay. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Okay. And Carol, thank you so much for taking this on. And Carol has already contacted John Murray, our controller. And you want to give us the report?
Okay, sure. As you said, I checked with John Murray, our city controller, and he told me that when he checked the controller report, that the ethics board started and ended the month with $25,000.
Thank you, Carol. Thank you. So this report reinforces what I think reinforces, in my opinion, our need for a liaison or secretary at City Hall. I'm concerned about whether our bills are getting paid, or simply maybe they're getting paid but not yet charged to us. But you know, I have a big concern about that. We've reached out to the business office a few times on how to, well, actually, we reached out on the invoice matter, I think only once. You know, to inquire about what's the proper protocol for getting our bills paid. And, you know, we can, again, after this meeting, send all approved invoices to the business office and request, you know, information about when and whether they are paid. But I know that there's transition in that office right now. There's a new business administrator and an outgoing, so that may be why we're waiting for a response on that process. But John, do you have any insight into that?
No, I haven't heard back from him either. I believe that we reached out on prior to May 29th. May 29th is when he responded back to us, just stating that they have to create a process since it's new.
Okay. So, and again, this is, you know, another reason why it would be good to have someone at City Hall who could help us navigate the procedure so that we're doing things the correct way and, you know, not having our bills not get paid. So, I mean, we basically have two bills. We have John, we have to pay our solicitor. John, have you been paid yet?
I have not.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
That's concerning to me. I think he
That's
should.
okay for now.
Okay, so we have our solicitor and the ads for the Times Tribune. I'd like to keep up the payments. So, okay. Okay, that's where we are on that. So we don't have really a correct accounting for what we've spent so far. I mean, we know we've spent more than the 5 invoices that we approved tonight, that's for sure. So, because we had ads in the fall that got approved at prior meetings. So once we find out what we have to do to get the bills paid, we'll take care of it. Okay, next item is on our agenda. And oh, did I miss something? Okay. Is other business. And the first item A is the item B, the complaint form, is really the crux of the meeting tonight. I would love for us to nail down that form so that we can move forward on approving it and having it available for the public. The board, but first let's do the landing page. Let's see, okay. We have also, this is another area where we have put in a request via email about a board landing page, and we haven't received any response yet. And we reached out, go ahead, John.
Who's the individual in charge of that with the city for IT?
Well, I don't know if I contacted the right person. I contacted Frank, I think it's Swetnicki. He helped us set up the email account for the public to be able to contact us for these Zoom meetings. And we did not, I didn't hear back. Now, he may not be the correct person to contact. That's
Mary Jo, and I had reached out to him probably going back about a year now, maybe not that far, but, and there was no response then either. So I don't know. I think he's the right person because I think that's what, when Joan was with us, I think that's who she was referred to. But again, no response is no response.
You know what? I think I'm guessing on this, but I believe he probably wouldn't be able to do this without getting authorization from either the mayor's office or the law department or.
I'll contact the law department beginning of next week to make sure we can get going with that. Because I mean, you know, on Scranton's homepage, our code's there, so I don't think it would take much more to create just a simple landing page. I mean, that's our main purpose of being, you know, so the general public can access a complaint form.
Right, exactly. And in addition to the complaint form, we need the landing page to provide the complaint form, the advisory opinions so that the public has access to them, the PO box for people to be able to know where to send a complaint, the gift reporting form, and also our agendas and our board minutes. For instance, I mean, I don't know how long we will be meeting virtually. So, you know, if we are doing this for an extended period of time, I would love for the public to have our board agendas before our meetings.
Certainly, yeah.
Yeah.
Landing page where they can see them.
Because then they can email with any type of commentary that they might have.
Yes, exactly. So, so I think this is a key administrative tool for us to function and to be able to comply with the code in several sections of the code. So that's where we are with that. And John, thank you. So you'll okay, reach out to law. Okay, thank you. Okay. Next up is the complaint form, and everybody has got or seen a copy. And before we talk about it further, I just want to give you a wee bit of background. Actually, Stephanie, would you be willing to give some background on this? Thank you, including about the addresses of the complaint of the person or persons being complained about. And make sure. Okay, thanks.
So we looked at the state complaint form, and we also looked at Reading's complaint form. And this form is actually modeled very closely off of Reddings with a couple of changes. And you'll notice at the top of the complaint form, there is a space for the post office box number. And also there's a blank for the zip code because I wasn't sure where we were going to have the post office box. Mary Jo and I looked at the Redding's form, and Redding does require the home address and the home phone number of the person about whom the complaint is filed. And we decided that that would not be necessary. So the person making the complaint should not have to list the home address and the home telephone number about the person about whom the complaint was being made. And if you look at you will notice that the complaint form must be notarized. If you look at the instructions, you'll see that if the form is incomplete, that it will not be accepted. Also, if a complaint is being made about more than one person, there would need to be a separate complaint form for each. We also included on the instructions protection of the complainant. We also included the section of the ethics code that makes sure that there is confidentiality of the board information. And we also included the section on wrongful use of the Board of Ethics. So we wanted to make sure that people who were making complaints were really clear about what this process is, and that we can only accept complaints that are under our jurisdiction, meaning a violation of the Code of Ethics. So does anybody have a question?
So I have a question. I think it's great. It's, you know, it gets the job done, of course, with what we wanted to do. Is the, let me rephrase this. Can somebody submit an anonymous complaint? That's my concern, is requiring a signature and their home address and phone number and all that. Can somebody submit an anonymous complaint?
John, you'll probably have to address that. I don't think so.
I would advise against that. Yeah, I mean, all these complaints will be confidential in nature.
Sure.
And we'll do a preliminary investigation. If we don't think that it has any merit, will be disposed of.
Okay.
So to clarify there, if a secretary who is separate from the board, not one of us, accesses the PO box and receives a complaint, the complaint would go to an investigator, an investigative officer, or to you, John?
Well, yeah, I think to me first, because procedurally we have to make sure that on its face, it complies. Yeah.
Okay.
One question, would the secretary open the complaint or would she give it to us unopened?
Unopened.
Unopened to John.
I know, that's when okay, so then it's unopened and so then it maintains its confidentiality. That was the only. Sure.
John is the person will know who filed the complaint.
We
That's per
should.
name.
What's that?
We should have, we could have a stamp or like a date stamp for whoever it is that accesses the PO box to date stamp right across the opening of the envelope, to you know, provide further evidence that it hasn't been opened yet, and that could be the date, you know, picked up from the PO box and then provided to John, and then John would have the record. So let's say something comes in and it has not, let's say something comes in, Bruce, that is anonymous. and doesn't follow the procedures, the complaint procedures that are set forth in the code, what happens, John? Like, we wouldn't even find out about it, right?
If somebody sent a complaint to us and it was anonymous, or say it wasn't notarized, perhaps maybe it should be why it can't be anonymous, I think, is because it makes sense for us to reach out to them saying, this is deficient.
Okay.
Because what if it is a serious issue and
Yeah.
we never addressed it because of a procedural defect?
Okay.
So we could just maybe reach out to them. This has to be addressed. Just make sure that you're in compliance with our
Okay.
requirements on the form.
If it's something that we cannot address, do we just dispose of it and not say anything to the person, or?
Yes, I think that's
Okay.
the best way to handle that.
Okay.
I have a question about the form. Is it reasonable to ask them to provide the work phone of the person about whom they're complaining? Is that fairly reasonable? I just want to double check. It's item number 1 on the form.
Are you asking everyone, or
Yeah.
John?
Yeah. No.
I think that's
Yeah, I don't see why not.
Okay.
that's reasonable.
Okay. So if they submit a complaint and that's missing, what do we do there? What if everything's completed and the work phone or the position or title isn't completed? Will it be similar? Will contact the person?
Yeah, I think if that were missing, I mean, that's not crucial to have
Okay.
a work phone number. I mean, it's easy
Okay.
to find a department's phone number or something like that.
Okay. Okay. Does anybody else have any other questions, concerns, suggested revisions or corrections?
Truly minor. Under the instructions, number 1, the only thing I would say is where the second sentence that says incomplete forms will not be processed. If we can emphasize that somehow, either underline it, bold it, just so that
Oh, okay.
maybe that helps eliminate some of the questions that we have,
That's a great
requiring
idea.
folks to just make sure the form is entirely filled out.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay, got it. We'll bold or underline it. I'll bold it. Thanks. Anything else? Okay, John,
Yes.
question. So we're all good with this form. Should we approve it?
Yeah,
Okay,
the faster we get something in place, I think
Okay.
the more beneficial it is to the city.
Okay.
And
So-
we could always change it. I don't think it has to be too
okay,
formal.
okay, great. So I'd like to get a motion to
I'll move.
approve the form with a modification to emphasize the sentence in instruction number 1, incomplete forms will not be processed. And also subject to the official PO box once we get it, and the correct zip code once we know what PO box we're going to. So I'd like to make a motion to approve. Okay, Carol made the motion, or I'd like to get a motion. Carol made the motion. Who will second?
I'll second.
Bruce will second. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. So we have our form. We have our complaint form. Yay. Okay. Next up, the annual review of the statements of financial interest. We are, as you know, required by Section 2B7 and Section 4 of the Ethics Code to annually review the statements of financial interest. Normally, that deadline is it May 1st?
May
May
1st.
1st.
May 1st of each year then the reporting period is the previous calendar year. For this year, however, because of the pandemic, the deadline was extended through July 15, 2020. I just want to remind all of our members that if you haven't gotten your SFI in, get it in before July 15th, okay? And then after July 15, we need somebody on our board, one of our members, to volunteer to contact the city clerk to do the following. One, I would suggest obtain copies of the SFIs for all elected city officials. Obtain or review them at City Hall. Inquire about plans to file online in accordance with the code. I would ask the city clerk about the status of plans for the city to put the SFIs online, because that's a requirement of the code. It's not a requirement for us to do that. And I don't know, but that might be an area of the code that maybe council and the mayor would want to amend. I don't know. And then report back to the board and the public. So the main thing is, would one of you be willing to, after July 15, go to City Hall to obtain or review the SFIs for all elected city officials? And let me be clear about what your duty is. Your duty is only to see that they were filed on time by the deadline. That's it. We don't
look at them at all.
That's not our purview. No, we don't have that expertise.
I don't. That's why we
rate them. We just need to see that officials are making them public and available, and the powers that be involved in things like procuring on behalf of the city, procuring goods and services, things like that. There has to be people on staff in the city who are monitoring, compliance with the ethics code and, ensuring there's no conflicts of interest and things like that. So.
Do you go in to make sure that they have them on file?
Yes. Okay. They're on file, and that they're, and then I would check to see that the ones that are on file were filed on time. Okay. And, we're supposed to, the code states that we're supposed to annually review the statements of financial interest for city employees and officials, I believe, something to that effect. I think if we reviewed the SFIs for elected officials at this juncture, would be reasonable for us. We can address at some point in the future whether we want to, do some sampling or check department heads or apply some methodology to,
When you say review, what does that mean?
Review means to check. Review only means review to determine whether the form was filed.
Okay.
And filed on time. That's that's our review. That's it.
Okay.
All right. So. Good questions. Thanks, Carol. Go ahead. What? Do you have another question?
No, I'm good.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions? Can I get a volunteer for somebody to do this after July 15 and report back to us? Thank you. Thank you, Carol. Okay, Carol's going to do it. Thank you. Okay, great.
As I don't have to look at them.
No. All you have to do is, and you'll see on the form, Actually, you probably could just go right to the signature and right, because that's where it's at the signature where you date your filing, right? And there might be a stamp. Hopefully the city is date stamping when they receive them. That would be really good. That would be a strong internal control.
And I only
So-
ask for the elected officials right now.
I think at this point that's reasonable. John, does that like get us kind of complying with our duty?
Yeah, you can't be expected at this point in time to check for compliance of every single city employee.
Right.
Yeah.
Yay. Okay, good. Okay. Any other questions on that?
I just wanted to add that the city clerk is aware that the FSIs have to be posted on the city website for elected officials. So she hasn't done that yet, but she's well aware, and I believe that she has talked with the IT person about that.
Okay.
Hopefully that could be our way in, because that should be on our landing page anyways.
Right.
All the SFIs, they can go right on, our section.
So Stephanie, thank you for checking in with her on that too. That's Lori. You know, Carol, have you met Lori Reed?
No, Lori who?
Reed. She's our city clerk. Yeah. You may have seen her at like the council meetings.
Okay. All right.
Okay. Next item is the gifts reporting form. And Stephanie, do you want to fill us all in on that?
Well, we're required to have a gift reporting form, and that should be in the city clerk's office. So I contacted the city clerk. She has already developed a form and has already received some completed forms. She emailed me, she scanned those in, emailed me those forms, and I have them available. All were determined to be, the gifts were to be de minimis. They're very small gifts. And so of really no concern for us. Our concern would be with gifts, according to the code, gifts over $50. So I also notified the city clerk that we were required to have a gift subcommittee. And I believe in the fall, before I joined this committee, Andy and Bruce were appointed to the gift subcommittee. So I told her that we do have a gift subcommittee and that Andy and Bruce would establish a process to contact her to obtain those forms and also report back to the board and the public. Now, I'm not sure how much education has been done with city employees and elected officials about reporting the gifts. And I'm sure we're going to discuss that at some point.
Well, I think once we get our landing page, you know, we can have, with that gifts reporting form, we can have the form on our landing page. And I don't know if the form itself cites section 6B3 of the code, but we can modify the form
Right.
and put that section right there. And we can even have some sort of, you know, we could even have a frequently asked questions section someday. And that could be one of the questions, what's required to be reported.
Right.
Oh, okay. Anybody else have any other questions? Okay, so Andy and Bruce, I'm thinking like periodically, if you could check in, I don't know, maybe before each meeting or something, you know, maybe just give Lori a call and somebody pick up the forms if any come in. Thanks. And then just so you know, anything that's reported that's de minimis, we don't have to post, right? Or do anything with, like de minimis stuff we don't have to report on. Is that right, Stephanie and John?
I think so. That's my understanding of the
Yeah.
code.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, okay. Okay, next item on the list is the maximum contribution adjustments, and that is section 12D of the code, which required the business administrator on January 1st, 2020 to adjust the maximum contribution limits using the consumer price index, the CPI, and possibly other factors or indices. That got a little confusing to me. And then he or she was supposed to communicate the new limits that are adjusted for the CPI in writing to the mayor, council, the city clerk, and the controller. And then that maximum contribution adjustment thereafter is supposed to be adjusted 4 years, every 4 years. So it's January 1st, 2020, the limits get adjusted, and then every 4 years thereafter. So we reached out to the business administrator, Pat Sheridan, and he emailed us back saying that he did indeed in January or February do the maximum contribution limit adjustment calculation. And he said he communicated that to the legal department and I think council, right?
Yes.
So he said he would forward to us that email where he did in fact communicate it. And we'll just make sure, council needs to get that. It needs to be available to the public, especially, I think next year we have local elections coming up. So it'd be good to get that adjustment, announced publicly, or at least, announced and communicated in accordance with the code at a minimum. So that would be mayor, council, city clerk, and controller. In case anybody calls and asks, what's my limit? So, I think that's it on that. Does anybody have any questions or comments on that? Okay.
Just wanted to
Okay.
say that also, that needs to be posted on the website. So
Yeah. That could be posted on our website, on the landing page, right? And that's a really easy way for the public to get information without having to call in to the city, right? Okay. Okay, next item is the PO box. We're ready to get a PO box. So does anybody want to volunteer to get the PO box? I am happy to. I'm happy to go downtown and set it up and then put in for a reimbursement. They're not that expensive. And I can do it on a lunch hour.
Does it have to be in the post office at the federal building, or can it be also at the post office on Lackawanna Avenue? Does it matter?
I don't know. I assumed at the federal building because it's closer to City Hall, and if the secretary works for City Hall, it might be easier for him or her to access the box.
Because I know sometimes if they run out of them at the federal building, they'll overflow to the Lackawanna Avenue.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I mean, I'm happy to go check it out and see what we can get going.
Okay. I think ideally if it could be at the federal building,
Yep.
it would be the smallest box.
Agreed.
That would be the best. Yeah. So yeah, Bruce, do you want to do that and keep me?
Yeah, I'll go take a look tomorrow because I'll be running around tomorrow, so I'll take a look.
Oh, fantastic. Thanks. And honestly, I'm happy to do, pay the fee or whatever and get reimbursed later. Whatever we need, but we're ready. other business, I don't have anything else other than to thank everybody for everything they've done throughout. I mean, from you know, we're getting close to being fully functional, and all of you have played different parts, and I really appreciate it, and thank you for what you've all agreed to do going forward from our, you know, our action items from this meeting. So, anything else? Anybody else have anything else? Okay. Then the next item on the list is public participation. I checked the email box this afternoon after the 2 p.m. deadline, and we did not receive any public comment. So no emails from anybody. I checked the spam too. There's nothing. So, so I don't have anything else. So can I get a motion to adjourn?
Sure.
Carol made the motion. Andy second.
Sure.
All right. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, great. Thanks, everybody.
All right, thank you.
Thanks all. Have a good weekend.
All right.
Take care.
Okay.
Everybody stay well.